Teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the #1 show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more. To my regular listeners, here we go again. As promised, as advertised, as guaranteed. You hit the play button on this show, you get nothing but gems. You get nothing but lessons. You get nothing but people who are here to serve you in so many different unique ways that you will walk out of this episode a better person. I have Miss Lorraine Ball, who is kind of, in a sense, everyone's dream in regards to how she's been able to see things, whether it's from her upbringing in New York to learning in Indiana. She taught, I believe she taught English. Was it English somewhere in, was it Europe, or I want to make sure I get it right. Israel. She taught English in Israel and ran a company called Round Peg, and sold that, but still kept her intellectual property. Currently teaches at Butler. The whole list goes on and on and on. So we're getting ready to get a master's class on marketing, digital marketing from before social media, all that stuff. So all that being said, Lorraine, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am excellent, Aswan. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so coincidental because this is how into work I actually am. I was on my birthday cruise and I happened to run into a Butler staff member who works in the fundraising department, and I was telling her how heavily involved I was with NIL and stuff like that, and she linked me with one of the one of the basketball players at Butler, Ari Wiggins, and we did the whole live stream thing, and I had an article about her, and that's actually currently something that she can use for marketing, because the way the deals are struck is whatever money, whatever revenue the article brings in, that goes directly to the player. And that's like a lifetime deal that she signed. So, I bring all that up because I want to dive deeper, just like her. I want to dive deeper into your background a little bit. I grew up north in Silver Spring, Maryland. However, I had a ton of family in Brooklyn, New York, and I spent a lot of time in New York. I went to school in Stony Brook, and, there's so many lessons growing up in that area, being involved with that area, that you pick up that you don't realize you're going to be using later on in life when you run into people. So I'll kind of give you the microphone for a second to speak on that background a little bit, and then we'll dive deeper into how you were able to transition and all that kind of stuff. So the floor is yours, Lorraine. Go ahead. Do you think?
The floor is mine. So I lived in Brooklyn, I lived in Queens, I lived in Jersey a little bit.
Yeah.
And the thing about that part of the world, there is an impatience. And
and I'm in Florida now, and there's a lot of New Yorkers out here, brother, even Philly, all that, say the same exact thing. I mean, it is exactly said it just like that. Some impatience we got as Northeasterners. It's like, we got to get to going, man.
Yeah. So yeah, you look at that, and I moved down to Dallas, Texas for several years, yes. And I thought that living overseas and teaching overseas, that I was living in a different country. I was coming back to the U.S. Mm-hmm. Texas was America, right? Yeah. It was not my America. I gotta tell you, the difference New York City and Texas in terms of the rhythm, in terms of the way they communicate. Mm-hmm. With a New Yorker, you always know exactly where you stand. Mm-hmm. You never have to guess how somebody feels about you.
Straight shooters. Yep.
I get down to Texas, and it's very polite. Mm-hmm. It's very polite. Nobody raises their voice. And
now, what part of Texas was it?
I was in Dallas.
Oh yeah, in Dallas. Dallas.
Very proper, and and everybody's very sweet, and everybody calls you hon and darling. And I wanted to leap over the table and strangle someone, but I couldn't because they were being so nice to me. And so I had to learn to adjust my communication style.
Okay.
And so we moved into this apartment, and they didn't have curtains in any of our rooms.
Yeah.
And I was a newlywed. I was not happy about this. And so I go down to the office, and every day for about 3 days, darling, hon, we're working on it. And of course, I want to yell at her, but I can't because she's being nice. So on day number 3, I walked into her office and I said, now, darling, I know you're doing your best. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit my butt down in the middle of your desk, and you will not be able to do any business around me until you get my curtains up. Are we good with that? So I learned, you have to say it with a smile.
Yes.
There's a little bit of apology in there.
Yeah.
And I really learned that there are very different communication patterns, and you have to adapt your style to who you're talking to.
1000%, 1000%. So what got you to Texas in the first place? Did you go to school right out of New York? And then, so what was that process like?
So I went overseas for a year, met a guy who lived in Texas, and quite honestly, it was an economic decision. When we were getting married, we looked at starting a life in Dallas, starting a life in New York City. We ran the numbers and went, oh, this is a no-brainer.
Right.
So that's where we were. And then after I finished grad school, I had an offer to come up to Indiana to work for Carrier Corporation. And I turned the job down 3 times in 18 months. And they finally made an offer that I was like, okay, I'm going to be here 3 years, and then I'm going to go live somewhere civilized. That was in 1992. I'm still here.
Right. And well, I'm glad you said the date, because one of the things that was really impressive and intriguing, and I think it's very important for you to communicate this with the listeners, is and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but was it this company that had you do a project, and then you told them, instead of doing the project, instead of outsourcing or something of that nature, where you wanted to create the services and then bring the people in that you can outsource, and then you were able to build your agency from that specific assignment? I know you can tell the story, but that was one of the things that was intrigued, because you had the foresight. This is before pre-internet, pre-social media, we could look people up and get it from it. You had the ability, the foresight to see, hey, let's do it like this. And then ultimately that became a huge, probably one of the best decisions that you could have made in your professionally. So go ahead.
Well, there were two. I did that actually twice in my career. The first time I was still at Carrier Corporation, and we were going to go through a branding exercise. And we were interviewing marketing companies that were going to do this exercise. Right. Okay. And I went down to my boss's office. I went down with a proposal in hand, and I said, there's one more marketing company you have to look at. And he said, who? And I put my resume on his desk, and I said, mine.
What? I didn't hear part. Oh man, let me get. I thought I did my research, but I didn't hear this part of the story. Go on. I like this.
So I said, you've got to hire me. Here's the deal. It will cost you less to let me run this team, to let me assemble a group of people who are smart, who know the business, who know marketing and branding.
Right.
And I convinced him to do it. We had way more money for research and other things. And we ultimately rebranded all 4 of the Carrier's major brands on the residential business unit. Well, coming out of that experience, now I go over to Conseco, and the company is struggling financially. And the assignment was to lay off 10 of my people.
Wow.
I said, I have a better idea. What if, because I was running a creative services team, we were doing all the design work for all the literature, all the ads. I had phenomenal writers. I had amazing graphic designers that worked for me. I said, instead of laying these people off, what if you let me sell our services in the marketplace? We'll go out into the market as an advertising, as a marketing company. We won't use the Conseco name per se. And we will have clients who pay us, and the money that comes in will more than cover the salaries of the people you want me to lay off.
So what exactly, so walk us through this, because now you just mentioned advertising, and nowadays advertising has completely changed. It is internet. It is they're trying to get on apps and, all this kind of stuff. The internet has changed the way people sell advertising. What were the people that you were selling and the clients, what were they getting? What was the result that they were getting when you sold the ad space?
We were designing ads for magazines. We were designing ads for newspapers. We were designing brochures and sales literature when people still went into every sales meeting with a trifold brochure or a big brochure. And that was what my team was really good at, was creating print. We were $26 million a year was my print budget.
Right.
No way would you be spending that kind of money today. All of those resources would be digital today. And so we did projects for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We did projects for actually one of the newspapers in town. We were actually supplementing because they didn't have the designers for these special inserts they were doing. They were outsourcing to us. We did projects for the zoo. And we actually covered our costs, and a couple other departments tried it and couldn't figure it out. And then things got really bad at Conseco. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is not working anymore. No amount of my love can fix this elephant. I'm going to go off and do it on my own. And at which point I had systems, I had procedures, I had contacts. I knew how to do it, and I knew how to run an agency on my own.
See, so for me, this is hitting, all sorts of cylinders for me, because the first company I actually started is a company that still exists to this day. It's called gym44.com. And the way it works is coaches can post a tryout, and there's a little space there for ad space on each tryout for the coach. The challenge with this company has always been proving ROI to the advertiser. And I'm curious now, because it's just strictly an internet thing, but with your background, how are you able to prove ROI to the people that you're selling ads to? Is this a situation where they're actually checking their ROI, or are you proving ROI in a different way than money? What is that for people that sell advertisers like me, that sell for a living? I'm always curious, how do you prove ROI to the people that are going to buy it? Because we know that ultimately is going to be what they ask for.
So you are viewing my history of 25 years ago through the lens of today.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is a challenge, because a lot of the things that we have gotten used to, that we have come to expect from our marketing, was not possible.
Yeah.
Back then.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Right. Yeah.
And you bought a television commercial because they told you that their viewership was X thousands or millions of people. You bought a billboard because you knew 500,000 people drove by that billboard every day, every week, every month, whatever it was.
Right.
You bought based on reach and frequency. And you really couldn't directly connect the marketing that you were doing to the results that you were getting. Yeah. Now, if you made a specific offer, did people ask about that offer? Did they, did they purchase? The interesting thing was, along comes the internet. Now you can track. I ran this ad and people clicked through and they came to this page and they filled out this form, right? And all of a sudden we have attribution. Well, guess what? We are now living in a zero-click world, and everything that you have come to rely on in terms of attribution going away.
Right.
Most platforms penalize you when you have a link in your content. More and more on search engines, you're getting AI-generated answers and rich snippets. The amount of clicks that's coming through on organic and paid is getting lower and lower.
Right.
If you're advertising on Facebook, Apple is blocking the data, so you can't see, are you getting the conversions? And so the world is almost coming back around to the world I lived in 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Where the best you could do was recognize that when you did more of this, you got results.
Yeah.
When people were engaging with you and talking about you, but the ability to direct line was really hard. And one other
Yeah, good.
Well, go ahead.
No, I'm just looking at it. I think that's actually good news because I'm always an advocate of getting people off the internet. I'm a sports guy. I want people in, gyms, in fields, and doing things where we're interacting and networking with people in person. So just meeting and creating people connectors, I would sell people on those types of things because we want to get people off the internet. So
Mhm.
that's not bad news, particularly for people who are trying to connect people. Now, if you just want to sit behind your computer screen and your phone all day, hey, sorry for you. But if you actually are interested in getting out and meeting and networking with people, this is actually good news. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the two things I want to leave you with there is the first is even when you think you know where your lead came from. And we did this with Yellow Page ads 25 years ago. We would put a code in every ad. So if you were in 5 different directories, you had a different code in each directory. And when someone called, you were like, well, if you can tell me the discount code in the ad that you just saw, I'll take 10% off your order. And whatever code they gave you, that allowed me to manually track. So there were always ways you could do that. But the issue was, how did you hear about us? Well, I got your number from the Yellow Pages. Great. Nobody ever asks, why did you pick us? There were 100 ads in that directory. And the bottom line is, it's not the last ad, but everything else that you do that leads up to that moment where someone says, oh, I'll pick them. My friend Jen always says, it's not the last beer that gets you drunk. It's all the beers,
it's
right?
all the beers. You start buzzing throughout. It's the last one that actually makes it so you got to go to sleep and say, look, I'm done.
Yes, but you didn't get there with just that beer.
Exactly.
And the same true about your marketing. So if you're out in the community, if you are visible, if you're engaged in community events, if you are you have a high visibility public image, active on LinkedIn, active on YouTube, and people are seeing your stuff, when they get to that decision point, they will click, but they are clicking because of everything else you've done.
Yeah, actually, I like you. I'm part of a mastermind. I have a coach as a business coach as well, and he calls it the collaboration era. And it's going to be an era that is not, it's an era. It's not going to change because of these options and the information, we are now prone to who can we collaborate with. And actually on this very show, there was a huge example of that. Shout out to Jeremy Fouts, but we were talking just like we're talking, and he has a supplement brand that offers hydrate and those kinds of drinks, supplement for athletes, like works with professional athletes. And he offered a discount code right here on this very show. So as soon as I get those products, I'm going to do a commercial with him and make sure that plays throughout the shows for the athletes and things like that. And this was not planned. This was all organic because we're having a conversation just like this. And then boom, the discount code comes, and then the collaboration and the connection actually happens. So these are the things that are very important, because one of the things that you just expressed is that the world is catching up to the internet. The world is catching up with social media, and what we're learning, the mental health that it's causing in terms of people just sitting behind these computer screens is not something that, the amount of people that get hacked every day. Facebook actually has some flaws. Oh my goodness, it's not perfect, right? There's something there. It's still run by humans. And that's where I want to dive deeper into the company that you started and then eventually sold. What was that transition like when you started the company? There's no internet, but then this Apple guy, the Steve Jobs guy comes, he's coming up with this, and you're looking at it around, you're like, is this actually going to affect what I do? So, walk us through some of the trials and tribulations of your business, and then what ultimately led you to have a successful sale where you still run the IP and the podcast and all that. So,
so I started with what I knew, which was traditional marketing. That was my background. That was my education.
That's you all day, right?
That I had
level.
Yeah, but I also had done work where even in the corporate level, I was providing support for small businesses who bought and sold
And
our
one of
product.
the things I got to pause you there, because one of the things I want to make sure gets mentioned is you saved a ton of jobs. Right now, we're in a political season where there's all sorts of politicians guaranteeing you this and saying they're going to create jobs. And I tell people all the time, they're not doing anything for you if you're not willing to help yourself. Without the business owners, without the people that care, you saved those jobs. You could have took the money and said, all right, we're going to hire someone and let these people go. You saved those people's jobs. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not running for Congress. You're not out there campaigning and, trying to be a governor and all that. So I want to make sure we make that point, given the political landscape and all these politicians that are promising you this and that. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. I always thought that when I had the opportunity to create opportunities for the people around me. So when I left Conseco and I started Round Peg, I was going to do what I did best. There were two things I felt really good about. I felt good about my marketing skills, and I felt good about my team building skills. I love doing creative thinking workshops and team building, but I got to tell you that corporate America in 2002 really wasn't very interested in team building. There were more people than there were jobs. People were graduating college. They couldn't find jobs. Companies didn't care. You don't like the job? Bye-bye now. We'll find someone else who does.
Yeah.
And so I ended up migrating to the traditional marketing. And I was the postcard queen. I understood that as a tool for my small business owners, my small clients who wanted to get their message in front of a very concentrated geographic market. Postcards were the way to go. You could pick a zip code. You could go to a printer and you could say, okay, I want a list and I want people who live in these neighborhoods, who own their own homes, and who are probably in this economic range.
Right.
And you could get very precise, very targeted lists. It wasn't cheap, but it was really effective. And what we were good at, which served us well much later, was we would design these direct mail pieces with a sense of humor. There was always a little bit of, like, everybody else was doing these very boring, we'll service your heating and air conditioner. And I would, I remember these so well. One was a woman bundled up in a parka, and all you could see were her eyes and her lipstick, okay? And the headline said, if you won't keep her warm, we will.
Oh, yes.
Okay. I mean, we were a little bit in your face. And so the clients that hired us were like, okay, we liked their sense of humor. And that contractor's phone rang. People wanted to hire him. The one in the summer was this photograph of this guy floating in a kiddie pool, and he looked like everybody's overweight uncle. Okay. And his feet are hanging out the back, one side of the pool, and he's laying in the pool, and it's like, it's a kiddie pool. We'll help you give it back to the kids.
Yeah. And this is something that's arriving on people's doorstep. Wow.
Yes. Yeah, it's coming in. And
So
my attitude,
and it could be like giving them a smile, like, okay, I gotta remind them, all right. That's almost like the funny post nowadays, because oh yeah, that's right. I gotta do that one thing.
right. And see, that's why I said the things that we were doing in traditional marketing prepared us. We didn't know it was preparing
I didn't know
us.
it's coming, right.
But we had the voice, we had the tone, and we built a reputation. We understood our customers, we understood their businesses. We're all about finding cost-effective ways to deliver the messages. And I've been doing it for about a year. And I got an email from somebody who was in a networking group with me. And I looked at this email newsletter and I went, this is really cool. I've never seen anything like this. And so I called him up and I said, okay, I love the newsletter. Tell me, how do you do it? How do you get it to look like this? And he introduced me to Constant Contact. And I dove into that. And again, this is still, we were playing with websites a little bit. That was not my bread and butter.
Right.
But email marketing was easy. And I started running the numbers, and I could go to my small clients and say, do you have email addresses for your customers? And they're like, well, yeah, some. I said, well, here's the deal. We'll take half your budget. We'll stop mailing. We'll save you thousands of dollars. We'll start sending emails, and we'll work on ways to encourage people to build into your system that you start collecting more email addresses. And so that was really my introduction into digital marketing. Next came web design, and I'm a geek. I've always been a techie geek. It's just kind of part of my nature. And the guys that built my website when I started the business taught me how to update it. And so I thought, well, I'll just build websites. I can do that. And I'll teach my clients. But you know what? My clients weren't geeks. And what was easy for me wasn't easy for them.
Right.
Yeah. So then I found WordPress, and that was a game changer.
Yeah. So there's two things I want to make sure we take away from everything you had just explained. First of all, websites are just an extension of email. So many of you guys get so caught up in making your website look so fancy, it looks so cute, it looks so neat. No one really, it's just an extension of an email. It's on the internet, and I get the way it appeals to your ego, it strokes your ego and all that. You guys got to stop that, because you're wasting a ton of money on money and time trying to make your website look perfect. What she just mentioned in WordPress, it's 100% free. All right. What my coach Dre, actually, the name of the coach, my coach is Dre Baldwin, and when I first was getting with him about getting a landing page, he looks at me, he goes, WordPress is free. Ain't nothing better than free. So go ahead and go with WordPress, right? Second thing is the niche down concept and knowing exactly who it is you want to serve. I spent about 7 months being a sales associate at an Orange Theory Fitness, and they were opening up a brand new club. And one of the things that was required before they opened was it was right next to a big box gym. They had to be next to a grocery store named Publix, and everyone in the entire area had to be making at least $100,000 a year or something like that. So even in these digital world, it's still about getting people to a certain location and knowing where your certain location is. So these are really two important elements when you get, especially for you small business owners, really two important elements that you have to consider when you're trying to build and when you're trying to make a step forward, because you can get caught up in what you think a big business is, and these things will just eat you alive over time because you'll be wasting so much money. So the next phase is, like you had mentioned, the digital marketing, how you get your message out there, because I believe you were in a place where you were already had these systems worked out and everything was moving, but you just wanted to do something else, but you didn't want to give up the podcast that which, by the way, you have over 1,000 episodes on your podcast. You didn't want to give up the teaching elements to your business. So talk us through how that decision came about and then eventually landed to what you're doing now, where you're giving young college students the game. By the way, if you have her as a professor, I mean, you guys are truly blessed, because I mean, she's giving you guys some game for real. I was telling Ari too, I was like, I gotta make it to Butler one day, man. I gotta really figure out a way to plan a trip and get my ass out to Butler for a basketball game or something, because that pride y'all got out there, man. It is it's a different type of culture from what I can see, a lot of the people that talk about it. So anyway, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So the thing I did right from the beginning is when I left corporate and we've been running this agency inside of our department, I took the process that we used to track projects and to track orders, and I overlaid that on my little company. And in the beginning, it was ridiculous. It was so much more than I needed. But because I was used to it, I stayed with it. The business eventually grew into it. And the beautiful thing was, from the day I started till the day I sold, if you called me up and said, hey, Lorraine, 9 years ago, you designed a brochure for my company. Yes, I did. Give me a minute. I could go to my system and I could find the project number and the digital files. And I could say, did you want a reprint? Do you want to update it? And Not only could I do that, everyone on my team could. And so the benefit of having that system in place meant that I didn't have to be there when the phone rang. Anybody, and that's, as you are building your business, you want to build replicable processes that can run without you. That when you hire your first virtual assistant, you hire an employee, they can then take over those functions. So then the next thing I did is I started looking at, well, what am I doing? Well, I've got the marketing strategy. We have the creative web development and content creation. I have the podcast, and I have my training. What of this do I want to do when I'm not doing everything? And in my mind, I wanted to have a business where I was doing presentations and training. I wanted to keep the podcast because, quite honestly, it's me. It doesn't exist with a different host. It's not the same
Everybody
show.
can do it. Yeah. A lot of people started and they wither away after barely 10 episodes. So a lot of people can't do it.
Well, but it's also the personality of that show and the style is me.
You have to.
So I said, I want to keep that. I have these courses that I have developed over the years. I used to use them as part of my sales process. I would do a public seminar. And I used to say 6 butts in seats, 1 customer comes out. If I could put 6 business owners in a room, 1 of them would hire me at the end of the class. That was always my benchmark. Well, again, somebody else could give that presentation, but the first question they got that wasn't on the slide, they would toast. So when somebody approached me and said, hey, we're thinking we would like to buy your business, I'm like, well, here's the deal. There's the agency. I'm happy to sell that. There's the systems, the processes, the customer list. They're yours. Podcast and the training intellectual property, that's mine. And the way I handled it is I had already created a second company. It was an LLC, and those assets were moved into the second company. So when we were negotiating the sale, there was no confusion. MTFW is not part of Round Peg.
And that's actually a very important lesson as well. When you are, or if you are trying, if your goal as a business owner is to set up something in which you can sell at some point, you got to develop a long customer list so you can actually sell something. I believe it was Snapchat, if I'm not mistaken, that had the stories, and I want to say it was Facebook that bought them. And again, Facebook had it might have been Facebook, or I think it was either Instagram or Facebook, but Facebook bought Instagram. The bottom line is they had the capability of creating the stories on their own. What they wanted was that list of users that was always on Snapchat. I actually wrote an article about Threads with Instagram. And it's all about return on ad spend. And I heard, I was watching one of the sharks, and they say, look, there's no loyalty in this business. They just want to go where the people go. So if Threads is a threat to Twitter, all I have to do is go on my Instagram account, press a couple buttons, and then it's a Threads account. Okay, I'm doing that. Whatever is going to get in front of more people is how you sell your business. So be set up in a situation in which you're bringing more people in. And one of the things I do want to have you kind of speak on, because I was watching a couple of your clips to your current students, and you were talking about how to develop like the right questions that get asked on SEO search. And I was like laughing at myself because 2 days ago, there was some light, and I'm not a car guy at all. So anytime a light comes on, I am freaking out because I bought it brand new, and I have the Toyota Care package, and I'm taking it to the dealership. Like, look, y'all fix it, because I'm not fixing my own car. So I saw this light, and it was late, and I'm like, oh God, what do I do? Here we go. And that was the question I got typed in Google, and all it was literally push the button right next to me, and the thing went away. That's what I'm saying. Nowadays, you would not realize the kind of questions that are getting asked in Google, and you have specific curriculum, specific ways of teaching students and speaking to that. So please, the floor is yours when it comes to, I'm tired of saying that. The microphone is yours when it comes to teaching how to figure out what's going to be searched, what's going to be searchable, and what is going to make you come up in a search engine. So go ahead.
So it's funny because I've been doing this kind of question answer content generation for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to call it content-based SEO. It has a new name. Now
Mm-hmm.
people are talking, now the gurus are all calling it answer optimization. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Here's the bottom line.
That's some AI stuff. The new cats coming in, AI stuff. So
yeah, what you need to do is you need to look at your business and start making a list of every question people ask you. Go back through your email and look at all of the questions that you get asked during your sales process. If you've got customer sales service people, if you have salespeople, make this list. That's number one. Now you got to go to Google and type in that first question. And when you do, you'll get some answers, but you'll also get a thing that pops up that says, and people also ask. And there's 10 more questions. Copy them. And then if you click it again, and people also ask, and people also ask, and now you have hundreds of questions. And you know your business. Start looking at those questions objectively. Which are the ones that you know people are likely to ask? And when are they likely to ask? Because that's the other thing, is that people move through a buying journey. In the beginning, they don't know what they don't know. Why does my furnace smell funny? Why is there a light on in my car? As they move through the process, now they're like, okay, well, my furnace smells funny because it needs to be cleaned. Are there heating and air conditioning contractors near me that clean ducts and clean? And so they get more specific. And now they're like, okay, I think I need to repair my furnace. What brands should I look at? Who carries those brands? So the questions become more precise.
Yeah.
You need to be sure that you can answer questions at every step in the journey.
Right.
But now what I want you to do is I want you to go back to your website. You have a search bar on your website. And I want you to paste one of those questions in and see what comes up. Right. Favorite example, I worked with a flooring contractor, and he said, you know, we always get questions about, why do I need to replace the subfloor? When you tear up my carpet or my floor, why do I need new subfloor? Why do I have to level the floor?
Right.
So I had about 5 questions on the subject, and then I went to his website and I pasted that question in. And you know what happened? Nothing came up. There was no content on his website to answer what he said was the single most important question.
Yeah.
So do this exercise for your website.
Exactly.
When you realize that you're missing the content, your next assignment is create it.
Create the content. Yes. Yes.
Write the blog post that answers that question.
Yes. Or else you're just kind of whistling into the wind. And that's actually what happened when I looked up that specific thing about the break. There were videos that came up, whether I wanted to read it, there were options like, this is what you do. Don't panic. Like there were people that, and this is like late, it's close to like 12 a.m. This is late at night. And it's people that are speaking to me and like, yo, this is what you do when that happens. You're not the only one that goes through it. Everybody that has a Toyota. And you like, Toyota was all over it. The every single dealership at least had that element, and that is so very important because it opens yourself up not just to a customer, but now if you want to, again, like you said, eventually sell your business or put yourself in a position where you can get hired, contracted, all these things are available, so you know specifically what you want your content to have. Man, you taking her class. Y'all are getting it. Y'all are absolutely getting a life lesson, man, a master class. Man, that is awesome. So, with all that, I do want to be very respectful of your time. Can you just tell people what's next and, what you see coming down the pipeline? Are you going to stay at Butler or is it going to be independent? Just speak a little bit on your services and what's the future look like for Miss Lorraine.
So 2 things. I am going to continue to teach at Butler 1 course a semester because I love it. It's fun. The students keep me energized, and also it keeps me on my toes, and I have to stay on top of my game.
Yes.
But the other side of it, and the podcast, because I love meeting people and having these conversations, the piece of the business that I really am focused on right now is I like working with companies that have been in business several years. I'm not really looking to work with startups necessarily. I want to talk to business owners who have spent money on marketing. and don't feel that they're getting the results that they want.
Right.
Those are the kind of companies I like to work with. I'll go in, I'll do a marketing audit. The one thing that is different with what I'm doing than the millions of other companies that are doing marketing audits, all of those companies have another product that they're selling. They're a web firm, they're a content firm. So they do the audit, and guess what? When they're done, what do you think you need?
There's going to be a charge coming. They're definitely, because they're going to offer, oh, well, I see what you do, but this is how I actually, GoDaddy did that with me when I first made my website. They was like, okay, we're going to do the photo shoot for you. We're going to do the blogs or some all these other services. And like, all right, here's the price tag for it. Boom. ClickFunnels thing. Boom. They're going to, at some point, there's a charge coming, folks. So I just want to put it out there. I've been around the block, so I know.
Yeah. Well, but see, the thing is that I get paid for my expertise. All I want to do is get paid for helping you build your marketing plan. At that point, you can take what I give you and go back to the people that built your website. I can introduce you to other people, but I have no secondary agenda. All I want to do is develop marketing plans, marketing audits, and marketing plans. And again, it's for companies that have already made some investments and just want to know, can I do better?
Right.
And the best way to catch up with me, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where you found me, I think.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah, thanks for reminding me. So shout out to podmatch.com, Podmatch, Move Swiftly, affiliate link. You guys have been great. I mean, I cannot thank you guys enough for the amount of incredible guests that this show has seen recently. So thank you for reminding me to put that Podmatch shout out there. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, okay. I mean, yes, I am a Podmatch groupie. I love Alex, but you know what?
You met Alex?
He's been on my podcast.
Oh, okay, yeah, he's in Jacksonville. There's a couple. I gotta link up with him, man. So yeah, I gotta do the formal.
But I love what he's done. I love what he has put together. But I connected with him originally on LinkedIn. So for those of you that are not podcasting, connect with me on LinkedIn, or my website is morethanafewwords.com.
Morethanafewwords.com. All right, make sure, and that would also, all that is going to be included in the show notes as well. So Lorraine, the final thing I do to close out all the shows is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. It is back in 92. You are just touching down in Indiana. You're like, man, I'm a New Yorker. I'm not staying here. I'm just doing my time, and I'm back Northeast or getting somewhere that moves fast. Pretend that young lady has come into the Zoom room. Give her some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
I think she needs to know right from the get-go that you've got great instincts, that you know the answers, and you just need to be very confident explaining it to everybody else.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sure that is going to help a ton of people that are in transition. So much of your story, so much of what you're about, really, I believe, is going to help people that are struggling and with their next phase of life. So as promised, I told you guys, this is what we do here. We give you just a little bit something to move on to the next moment. You hit the play button. You stay with us for this amount of time. So again, you deserve the reward for it. Go out and figure out something. Figure out how you can make this moment just a little bit better. Everyone out there, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.